I've been writing music for the last 14 years and have composed pieces that are varying in complexity and length. I've written music for single instruments, for multiple instruments, for full orchestra. What the pieces have all in common is that, first of all, it's always a struggle to write a good piece of music. But secondly, they all start initially all with a simple musical idea. A start of where we can make our journey in composing a piece of music. And sometimes it's a rhythm. Sometimes it's two notes, sometimes it's three notes, maybe four. But it's very, very simple, and it's not a melody yet, but it's a start to get developing a melody. Now, I've taken a piece of music which I will discuss here to show you how we can develop a musical idea into a final piece of music. And a piece of music I've written recently, it's for piano, not too complicated to read and play. It's definitely not one of my most complicated pieces of music, but I think it's a nice piece of music to show how we can develop a musical idea into a final piece of music. So the way we will develop from this musical idea into a full piece of music is actually four steps. It's the development of the musical idea into a melody. The second one is development of the melody, and actually it's copying the melody and making a variation. Third one is intermezzo, and fourth is closure. What we see here is, by the way, that this piece of music is going to be written in C major, the most simplest key there is. So that's already very easy, but if you listen to the musical idea, it's not a melody yet. That I had in mind when starting this piece of music, then it's very simple as well, and it sounds like this. Can almost not be any simpler. And if you would put it into music on the sheet, then it looks like this. It's very simple. It has four notes all of the same length, quarter notes. It starts with the dominant of the C major chord, which is the G. The G is repeated, and then it scales down through F and E in a kind of a descending musical idea. That's it. To develop this into a next step in order to create a melody, we need to get inspired a little bit more through this. This is a very boring initial musical idea. So if we want to be inspired in order to come to the next step of making a melody, we need to make this first musical idea a little bit more interesting. And one way to do that is especially look into the three last notes and see whether we can make them into a chord. Maybe that gives us a little bit more feeling. And since this is written in C major, we could think about adding the C tone to all these three notes and make it into a simple two-tone chord and see what happens. So let's do that. So this is not great yet, but the music sounds now already a little bit more interesting. But in my view, it's still not good enough to get started into the next step. So I would like to develop these chords a little bit better, and what I like a lot is adding in chords the so-called itchy notes, as I call them. Notes that actually do not belong in the chord, but are close to one of the notes in the chords, and it gives a little bit some extra flavor, extra character to the chords. What we could do is we could add here a D, which is the close neighbor of C. Actually not a part of this chord, but if we add it, it gives a little bit of more of a twist to the notes. That's already better. But before we go now into the next step, I would like to give some more character on that music idea through the left hand accompanying this. You can see here that the notes all have a duration of a quarter note. And if I would make my accompany as well in quarter notes, it becomes very dull. So I think it would be a good idea to start with 1/8 note to give a little bit of a different pulse on the melody. And since this melody is going down the scale, I want this accompany to go up scale to create a little bit of a contrast, which might be interesting. So let's just follow the scale of the C major and see what happens. Right? So let me play this and get a feel of whether this is becoming a little bit more interesting. Now this is already a little bit more inviting, but because what you hear at the end is not only the 4 notes being close, but especially the accompany gives a bit of anticipation, like you hear that something should follow now. So let me make this last note into a quarter note, and then we have concluded this first setup. Now we need to think about the next step, and actually I think we could repeat the melody one more time. So let's see what happens if we do that. It can work, this doubling of the idea, but there's not a lot happening here. So one thing that we could do is look into these 3 notes again, right? So we have added here a D, and what I could consider here is to bring this itchy note a little bit lower, following the feeling of a descending melody, right? And another note that is close to C would be B or B flat. So let's see what happens if we make this now into the D note into a B flat in all these chords and see what happens over there. Now you heard already that now this gives already, it's kind of repetition, but it's different, and with the change of that D here into a B flat, we get a feel of a further descending melody. What I don't like here yet is that actually this accompany is completely repeated, and we've seen that this company actually creates a kind of anticipation, and I think we can make that anticipation even better if we do not continue the scale as it goes down. It goes up here, but we reduce that somewhat. So I'll show you what I mean with that. So we're going to take this one out, and we stop the scale here. And let's see what happens now. This definitely starts to sound like a melody. What I don't like yet here is that this is too much still a repetition. And that has to do, I think, with this beat here, the 4th beat, which actually starts the melody. It's a quarter note here, and by keeping it a quarter note here as well, it's somewhat predictive. So what we could do is change that one, not in a quarter note, but in an 8th note. and then we need to change this chord as well. So let's play this one more time. I'm getting now close to a melody, but you still feel that there needs more to come. And what I feel here is the need to bring this melody down even further. And what I think that we can do is then even also we come again with this last note, which is actually the first note of the new phrase, by cutting this down even a little bit further. So I'm not making that an 8th note, but a 16th note. And let's see how we can do that by taking this one out. And if we want to continue with 16th note and we go down lower, this is an E. I need to put the D and a C here. Let's hear that. Now the musical idea has now developed enough for the melody almost to write itself. So let's play what we have now, and then I'll play what I feel should be the conclusion of this melody. So let's write it out, what I just played on concluding this melody. So okay, so that's completing the melody, but it's still very meager. So we have to put in here some extra notes, and so also a melody in the left hand. We've seen here that we go down from D to B flat. Then this is logical to go to A, because now we come into the F major key. And then we continue that trend going down. And in this part you see that we repeat more or less the melody like we did here in bar 2 and 3. We see in 4 and 5 we do more or less the same. We do as well the same trick, that we lower one of the notes, and so we lower this A into A flat, and then this sounds already very nice. We put the A flat here as well, and then we're good to go. Then what we come here is, so we have A flat here, so then this, we go even one step deeper, we go to G, G again, and this chord we need to beef up as well a little bit. And what we're going to do, we're going to put in here again a few of those itchy notes, and we do the same here, itchy notes here as well, and we do that here as well. And here we make it all itchy. Okay, so let's hear how this now sounds. As a completion I will play only the right hand. This sounds good. I only realized that I made a mistake over here. This should not be a D, that should be an E. So actually now we have written our melody. By the way, it's a 4/6 bar melody. Typically melodies, by the way, are a multiple of 4, so 4, 8, 12. This one is 6. What we still have not done is, of course, completed the left hand. And for the fourth bar, I propose to follow the same trend of a upgoing scale. By the way, we're here in F major, but also here then stop it a little bit earlier than this one. So this one was the longest. We made this one shorter. The next one we make a little bit shorter as well. And we do that by putting in here an F. We make even that range shorter than it was here, right? So it was 5 tones over here, it's only 4 here. Okay, on the last part I think that now it's time to break this trend of upgoing scales, and we do it here simple with 2-note chords, which will look something like this. So let's hear that, how that sounds. I made here a mistake as well. This should be an F, another G. So we're getting there. Now we'll introduce again a scale here going up, since this is going down. But now we are not just going up, but the accompanying tones will go up and down. And we'll do it like this. And the reason for that is, well, we will see later, if we come later into the piece, that it is foreseeing already a trend somewhere later in the second melody. So we bring this up and then down, and we do the same here. We come to this chord. Now let me play this whole melody now in full. So we've completed our melody now, and let's call this melody A. And now, of course, we are going to continue writing that musical piece. What I've decided in this piece is, because you see that we end here with a G, and we started with a G, is actually we are almost saying, let's do it one more time, right? This whole melody. And I've decided to do that, but with a little bit of a difference. So let's just spike this melody underneath the original one. So we have here a 1-to-1 copy. And then we could actually play that as a continuation, so let me do that. Can work a little bit like we had here in the beginning. Repeating a melody is not bad, but there's always the chance that it becomes all very predictive and all very boring. So we need to bring here in some twist, as if we are repeating the melody, but slightly changing it and making this not into melody A, not maybe melody A1, and make it somewhat different. The good thing is that it's not boring, but we also make this melody stick, right? So we rub it in one more time, but in a slight deviation. So let's see how we can change this first bar, still having the same character, but a variation on this downwarding trend. And actually what I want is not to completely go down, but slightly down and up. And I want this step up from G back to G to be a little bit more dramatic. So let's see how that works out. So that's already more dramatic, right? And in the next part, we continue like we did here with the G, we continue with the G, we repeat the C, we keep this B flat in order to keep this downgoing trend. And what I would like to do is bring in here a little bit of variation in the rhythm. And we've been working with quarter, eighths and 16th note, but a triplet would be nice here to give a little bit of a kick in the rhythm. So let's see how we do this. So let's see how this sounds now. So we have a little bit of a twist in the melody. That's very nice. And then I propose that we go down with eighth notes from F, E, D to E. So let's see how that works. So let's hear now how the sound of these two musical ideas of melody A and melody A1 are similar but different as well. So we'll play them. Yeah, that sounds not too bad. What I have the feeling here is that this E remaining here is just not good enough. I think we should bring this E up to an F, actually in two notes. So make this like this. So let's see how that sounds. Yeah, that sounds a lot better. I think we can keep this part here. There's no reason to change this. This one we can keep as well. What I only did is I changed the left hand a little bit in order to make it a little bit more interesting, and I'll show you what I did here. I made this into and this changed in, and that sounds now as follows. You might have noticed that I made a mistake over here. This should not be an F, but a D. So we're getting close. This we can keep as well. The last note, since now I think that we need to go to a real different melody, what I propose is that we skip this note and we make this into a half note. So let's take out these bars. So we got now the full melody A and A1. I'll play that one more time. So time is now coming to come to a next melody, and actually what I did is I created more an intermezzo, which actually in hindsight I find too short, but it is what it is. And in order to see where we need to start that intermezzo, I think it might be good to look at what we've been doing here. So if we look to this first melody A, it all more or less evolves around the G. In the second part it evolves much more around the C, which are the two notes of the C major chord. The third note of the C major chord is of course E. And if you listen to this ending, having the intermezzo starting with a E would maybe not a bad idea. You might recall that I said that we've introduced here a scale going up and down, and that was foreseeing a second melody. And so what we could think about is putting here a melody starting on E, going up and down as a first start. So let's do that. So we have this. And then of course a logical following of that is an F. And here we want to make the length again a note, an F with a bit of a itchy notes, right? And actually we want to be a little bit lazy. We can just take this left hand over here. And then this of course needs to start, if we follow that same trend, with an A, F, E. We follow the same again, so we go up and down. And then actually since we have here a whole note, and we want to follow this trend of melody line, which we do here, we can even extend that with two extra notes going down, right? So let me play that. Oh, I think that's a nice intermezzo. The next step what I did is, if you hear this melody, this melody begs for in my view, for an A. Right. And we follow there as well the trend of the left hand going up and down. And actually what happened here is that I think I made a mistake, but it was a kind of a happy mistake. I put in this chord. So we get this. And for me this begs to bring this down like this. And then we follow a kind of chromatic scale up in order to go back to the start of this small intermezzo of 4 notes. Now we want to give a bit of a left hand here. What we can do is, this is going up chromatically, we go down chromatically, and we follow here a C major chord, which is, then we go down following this one going up, down further. And if we hear that, it sounds as follows. Okay, let's see whether we can beef up this a little bit by making it into chords, and I did the following. Okay, so now we have concluded actually that first intermezzo of 4 bars, and I'll play that one more time. And actually this gives us the feeling of returning back to this point. And then we do that a little bit differently. We start again on E, but now an octave higher. And we skip all these notes and we go back to G, like here. So there is some similarity between the 2 bars. You can hear it as follows. Against. Right. That also means that more or less we can steal this left hand and put it here as well. And then instead of going here to an F or even an A, I decided to jump an A up or a G up and make this again into a sticky or itchy chord. So you see we have an E, a G here. I put next to that an F. And actually I put even an A there. So F, G, A, they're all the neighbors of each other, right? let's say, almost a borderline chord, and we put against that exactly the same left hand as this one. So let's listen how that sounds. Not too bad. And actually we have here two bars, and actually I bring it back just only to with another bar to close down the melody, right? So if, and then you could think about like this. And then I am actually done with the intermezzo. So as I said already, it's a little bit short and shorter than I like, but I've decided to keep it like this. I will beef up these chords again in the same trend that we did earlier. This you might recognize because it's the same chord as here. Right, and actually what we can do, you look at this, since there's a similarity between this bar and this bar, look at the chords. I can steal this left hand and put it here. And since this is all an octave a little bit higher, I will put this an octave higher as well. Easy as that. So let's play that intermezzo one more time. So actually we've now completed the intermezzo, and you can already hear from this song that we actually can go back to the original melody. So that's an easy task. So what we do, we take this whole original melody and copy it. Right, and then actually what we have to review is that, is this what we want, or is there anything more? I already see that I need a little bit more bars here, so I will put in a few more. And we put this one over here and this one out. I think that should be enough. So actually we're repeating everything. There is no reason to adjust a lot. If you play this melody A again, of course you want to hide it because we're ending now to the end of the musical piece. You might want to play that softer or slower. You could even then play a little bit with a few changes. One of the changes that I did is that here I made this into a chord, and I made this actually into an arpeggio here over those two chords. We're ending up here. This is all good. Here I decided to take out these two chords and change it as a different one in order to show that we are nearing the end of the piece by going over here. right? That makes sense. Of course, we need to beef up also this chord a little bit, and we do that as follow. And now I can end, but I decided not to do so, because it's nice that everybody, when they expect this piece to end, is to bring in a few more bars to get your attention one more time. And actually what I did is I made a sequence of a kind of scaling down melody again, as a reference to what we've been doing here, starting on the C. So let me show you what I did there. Right, so we get this. Of course, that begs still for a left hand accompany, and what I did over there is very simple. And then this chord. In order to make this a little bit more readable, and you've seen that I used an arpeggio here, is that we give this D, and then we continue here with the clef of the bass. And you heard already how I ended this melody exactly with, again, this left hand. So actually the piece is ready now, and let me play it one more time.